what's the scene in San Francisco like right now? Is there really a hot seat for Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, Peter?
I don't think there's a hot seat. I will tell you that it is a tense situation. That's the word I would use. The last year was kind of written off because of the injuries. Fan base, very demanding, doesn't want to hear it. And then you look at what they gave up to get Trey Lance. If they had sat at 12, which was their original pick before they did all the maneuvering and traded up, Mac Jones might have been sitting there and they would have 2 first-round picks the next 2 years. Now, this is a 2020 hindsight thing that we can do, and we can play Monday morning quarterback after the draft. But remember, that Friday morning after the draft, everyone was patting him on the back for being so aggressive and go and get Trey Lance. That said, anyone who has realistic expectations for a kid who played 17 games in college at that level knew that he wasn't going to come in and immediately be the starting quarterback and take this team by storm. So I think patience has to be that they preach, but 2-4 is unacceptable for a team that was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and there have been so many expectations for this team to bounce back now that players got healthy. Their corners last night, Rich, were Drake Kirkpatrick and Josh Norman, who have had very good NFL careers and will have very good luck. For that to be the cornerback situation and see Michael Pittman jumping all over them and having that success that Carson Wentz did on that defense, which was supposed to be the hallmark of this unit, went a long way. I think Alan Chris hit it really good when they went deep into the DeForest Buckner situation, and Michelle Tafoya had what was, to me, an explosive quote. Buckner was shocked that they traded him because they had Armstead, Buckner, and Bosa. That could have gotten you a few wins in yourself. They traded away Buckner, and Buckner's team got the better of them. There's a lot of frustration amongst the fan base because outside of that Super Bowl year, Kyle Shanahan has a losing record, and even with that Super Bowl year, there have been a lot of excuses made, but not a lot of actual big wins outside of that one campaign.
So who's building the roster there? Is it him? I mean, does he have that sort of control within the organization in San Francisco?
I think obviously John Lynch is the general manager, and
right.
Parag Marathi is going to handle the salary cap stuff. But Kyle Shanahan's got a very influential voice, and when it comes to quarterback, that's Shanahan's pick right there. Trey Lance. Now I know John loved meeting with Lance up in North Dakota, and they were on the same page on that. But after doing all that work, it was going to be in Kyle Shanahan's hands as far as whether it was Mac Jones, whether it was him, whether it was Justin Fields in the draft. I would also add that last year's first-round pick, Brandon Ayuk, after the draft, Kyle Shanahan came out and said that they had Ayuk number 1 on their draft board in a draft that had Justin Jefferson and Jalen Reagor and Henry Ruggs and Judy. And he was like, no, this is our guy. We wanted Ayuk. Ayuk has been invisible. And yesterday, if it wasn't for the punt being fortunately a touchback, that might have been one of the biggest mistakes of the game last night. So when you look at those picks, Ayuk and Lance and Trey Sermon, who hasn't gotten going, I would think that Kyle Shanahan has a very, very large voice in the room as far as offensive players taken in those early rounds.
Yeah, and that I think is the mix here, Peter, that's got a lot of people wondering if there's a hot seat. I don't think there is. I don't think there's an appetite by management to bounce him or even think about bouncing him or go in a direction of bouncing him because he would just bounce to another spot. And plus, they're only one game out of the playoffs as they're currently sitting right now in the longest regular season ever. But the question is that it is a remarkable development that here they had the position, and even Shanahan mentioned it and was kind of, touting it, that they had a veteran that the locker room loved that took the team to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So they had the cover of drafting somebody this high and letting him develop while sprinkling him in. And now we're in the position of how fast can he get back, because Jimmy G is not the guy moving forward for a 2-4 team that we're wondering about player development, right? Ayuk is totally regressed. Like, we're wondering, like, is this the guy to develop anybody? Or what is his mindset in developing players? That's the question right now. I can't believe we're in that position, to be very honest with you.
No, it's a conundrum because they also, like I mentioned, when you have Josh Norman as your number 1 corner, on the other side of the ball, you're an aging unit that hasn't necessarily filled in the defensive backfield in a problem area for this team for quite some time. I find it interesting because we throw around the genius label with McVay, we throw around the genius label with Shanahan. There are some old school coaches and old school defensive coordinators around the league who love nothing more than seeing these young offensive geniuses, quote unquote, be humbled and be in the crux of it. And right now, I think a lot of people are taking a lot of, not joy, but there's some snickering going on with, okay, well, everyone thinks Kyle Shanahan is such a genius and all that, and you guys in the media, and they point to me a lot of times, you guys in the media, you crown these young offensive whiz kids, but gosh, doesn't look like they're so smart at the moment. So, there's going to be a great what if, and it's what if, and we'll know 5 years from now if Trey Lance is great or not, but like what if they just sat pretty and if they took Mac Jones, or what if they traded up to the 3 pick or the 4 pick with what they did this year, and they took a Kyle Pitts, or they took a Jamar Chase, or they took a different player than having to trade all that draft capital, the 12th pick, and 2 more first-round picks for Trey Lance, who might not even be better than Mac Jones, who would have been sitting there.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.